The auction of chains, the slave market smelled like metal, sweat, and fear. Lyra stood on the stone platform, chains around her wrists and ankles. Her pale skin was marked with bruises. Her long silver hair was dirty and stuck to her face. She was only 17 in Earth years, but her eyes looked older, tired and full of pain. Aliens from many species walked past her, some laughing, some shouting. Many looked at her like she was meat. Others threw numbers at the auction master. Lyra didn't move. She had learned not to. Moving meant punishment. She had been a slave since she was a child, sold from one master to another, each worse than the last. Now she was here, on the auction block again, in a human-dominated zone. She had heard stories about humans, cruel, brutal, monsters who loved pain. If a human bought her, she was sure she wouldn't last a week, maybe not even a day. The auction master raised his voice. Strong bones, healthy organs. She's still young. Who'll start the bid? The bidding started. Alien voices filled the air. 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, then silence. A deep, calm voice spoke from the back. 5,000. Heads turned. A human stepped forward. He looked older, maybe in his 40s. His hair was dark with gray at the sides. He wore a long brown coat, dusty from travel. His eyes weren't cruel. They were tired but kind. Lyra froze. The crowd murmured. That was double the price. The auction master grinned. 5,000, do I hear more? No? Sold. The hammer fell. The man stepped forward, handed over the credits, and reached for her chains. Lyra flinched hard. Her whole body trembled. She thought he would hurt her now. But he didn't. He looked her in the eyes and said in a quiet voice, "Let's get you out of here." He unlocked the chains himself. Lyra looked at her wrists. They were free, but she didn't feel free. She followed him like a scared animal, keeping her head low. The other slaves stared. Some looked jealous. Others pitied her. No one had ever paid that much for a slave unless they wanted something dark. Lyra was sure this human would do the same. They walked through the city. The human didn't touch her, didn't pull her by the arm. He simply said, "Keep close." And she did. He bought her food, a simple meat roll from a street vendor. But Lyra didn't eat. She held it in her hands, confused. No one had ever fed her unless she earned it through work or pain. The human didn't say anything. He just kept walking until they reached a small transport ship. It wasn't big, just enough for two. Inside it was warm, clean. There were blankets, a small kitchen, a single bed. The man sat down and finally said, "My name's Carter. You can rest. No one's going to hurt you here." Lyra said nothing. He pointed to the food. "Eat when you're ready." Then he stood up, walked to a small corner, and laid down a mat to sleep on the floor. That shocked her most. He didn't take the bed. She watched him for a long time, still holding the food. Was this a trick? Was he trying to win her trust? Her hands shook. Her mind raced with fear. But Carter didn't move. He closed his eyes and went to sleep. Hours passed. Lyra finally took one bite of the food. It was warm, her eyes filled with tears. Not because it tasted good, but because no one had ever fed her without pain first. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in the corner of the ship, knees to her chest, eyes wide open. She was still a slave. Wasn't she? Or had something changed? Was this man really different? She didn't know yet, but something inside her, something small and broken, whispered, maybe, just maybe. The journey in silence. The ship floated quietly through space. Lyra sat near the corner of the small cabin, her back pressed against the wall. Her knees were pulled close to her chest. She had not spoken since the auction. Her eyes followed every move Carter made. Carter didn't talk much either. He moved calmly, checked the ship's controls, boiled water for tea, and sometimes hummed, softly, almost like he forgot she was there. But Lyra watched everything. Her body remained tense. Her hands stayed near her legs, ready to protect herself. She didn't understand this human. Most owners had shouted. Some had laughed when they hurt her. Some used collars or shock rods, but this Carter, gave her space. He never raised his voice. He didn't even lock the door of the ship. He could fly anywhere, she could run, but she didn't. Something deep inside her whispered, "Wait, watch, don't trust too fast." On the second day, Carter placed a folded blanket and clean clothes near her. He didn't hand them to her. He just left them on the seat and walked away. Lyra didn't move. She waited until he was busy fixing something at the ship's engine. Then she slowly touched the clothes. They were soft and warm. Not slave rags, not marked with numbers, they were hers. No one had ever given her anything. Carter finally spoke that night. Not a question, not a command, just a quiet offer. "I'm making soup. You want some?" Lyra didn't answer. He made 2 bowls anyway. He placed one near her feet, then sat far, across the room with his own. She looked at the soup. Steam rose. It smelled of real food, simple, but not cheap scraps. Her hands shook as she picked it up. She took a small sip. Warm, so warm, it made her eyes sting. Later that night, Carter spoke. Again. "I know you don't trust me, that's okay." She looked up, surprised. He was sitting near the control panel, his eyes looking out the small window at the stars. "You probably think I bought you to hurt you. I wouldn't blame you. I've seen what they do to people like you." Lyra didn't speak. He smiled sadly. "You don't have to talk. Not yet. Just rest." Then he said something that made her freeze. "You're not a slave anymore." Her fingers clenched the blanket. Not a slave? What did that mean? She didn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Words were easy. Many masters had lied to her, promised freedom, then laughed. So she stayed silent. But her heart, small and broken, beat a little faster. The next morning, Carter found her standing near the ship door. He didn't yell, just raised an eyebrow. "Thinking of leaving?" Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. He walked over slowly, then sat down beside the door, not blocking it. "There's a small planet nearby. Safe. Peaceful. If you want, I can drop you there, or take you somewhere else." He looked at her again. "I won't stop you." That was the moment she spoke. One word. "Why?" It came out dry, like her voice had forgotten how to speak. Carter didn't answer right away. He leaned back against the wall, closed his eyes, and said, "Because no one helped my sister. She was sold when I was young. I never saw her again." He looked at Lyra. "I can't fix the past, but I can stop it from happening again." Lyra didn't walk out the door. She turned around. She walked back to her corner, carrying the soup bowl in her hands. Carter smiled, just a little. She had taken the first step. That night, she slept. Really slept. For the first time in years, her body rested. No chains, no cold floors, no nightmares. And when she woke up, the human was still there, and the door was still open. The safe house. The stars faded into blue skies. Carter's ship landed on a quiet planet with green fields and gentle hills. The place didn't look like anything Lyra had ever seen. No fences, no patrols, no slave markets, just peace. She sat in the back of the ship, nervous. "Where are we?" she asked softly. Carter smiled. "Home." The ship doors opened, and fresh air rushed in. It smelled like flowers and something sweet, maybe fruit. Lyra's eyes blinked fast. The sunlight was warm. She hadn't felt warmth like this in years. He didn't push her to move. He just stepped down and waited. Lyra followed slowly. The house was small, simple, made of wood and stone. But it looked real, safe. The kind of place where laughter could happen. if someone remembered how to laugh. Inside, there were 2 rooms. A kitchen with real food, a living room with old pictures and a cracked sofa. One room had a bed, clean, soft. The other was filled with tools, parts, and strange human things. Carter pointed to the bed. "It's yours." Lyra didn't step in. You're giving me a room?" "Yes." She stared. "No chains?" "No chains. No collar." Carter's eyes were sad. "Never again." That night, Carter cooked. Simple stew and bread. He didn't serve her like a master. He put both plates on the table and sat. Lyra stood for a long time. Her body was stiff, waiting for the command. None came. "Sit if you want," he said. Slowly. She sat. Every bite made her heart ache. She didn't understand why, but the food tasted different when it wasn't forced. After dinner, Carter took a blanket and a pillow and went to the workroom. "You're taking the bed," she said, confused. "You need it more." "But you bought me." Carter turned around. "No. I rescued you. That's different." Lyra had no answer. Her mind couldn't fit the words together. A man who paid for her, didn't touch her, didn't hurt her, and gave her a bed. She laid down that night, not sure if she should sleep, but the pillow was soft, the blanket warm, and sleep came. The next morning, Lyra walked to the window. Outside, Carter was planting something in the dirt, flowers, strange ones with long glowing leaves. She stepped out, slow and quiet. He saw her and waved. "You like flowers?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. He picked one and handed it to her. "Then you can learn." Later, he showed her around the land. There was a small stream and birds that made funny sounds. The sky had 2 suns, no guards, no cameras, no screams, just wind and peace. Lyra's hands stopped shaking that day. That night, she asked him, "Why don't you lock your doors?" Carter looked at her. "Why should I?" "I could run. Then I would know you didn't feel safe. But you wouldn't stop me." He shook his head. "I won't be like them." Lyra stared at him for a long time. Finally, she said, "I don't want to run." Carter didn't smile big, just a small nod. But it was the first time Lyra saw his eyes light up. For the first time, someone believed her. Not because of fear, not because of chains, but because she chose to stay. That night, Lyra sat near the fire and whispered a name to the flames, her sister's name. She had never spoken it aloud since her sister was taken. But here, she could. And Carter didn't ask questions. He just added wood to the fire and listened. Scars and questions. The mornings came soft now, no shouting, no orders. Just sunlight through the curtains and the smell of tea from the kitchen. Lyra had stopped flinching when Carter walked past. But the fear wasn't gone. It had only grown quiet, like a sleeping creature deep inside her. One morning, she was washing, her arms in the small bathroom. The water was warm, the soap gentle. But as she rubbed her skin, old marks showed again. Scars, long twisted lines across her forearms and back, some thin, some deep. She stared at them. She hated them. They were stories she never chose to tell. Carter knocked lightly on the wall outside. "I'm making breakfast. I'll come in a moment," she said quickly, pulling her sleeves down. He didn't ask why her voice sounded tight. At the table, Lyra sat across from him. There were eggs, fruit, and warm bread. She picked at her food while Carter sipped his tea. Then she noticed. He wasn't eating. He was looking at her wrist. Her sleeve had slipped just enough to show one scar. She froze, but Carter didn't say anything cruel. No questions, no pity. Just one quiet sentence. "Does it still hurt?" Lyra blinked. Not what happened. Not who did that. Just, "Does it still hurt?" she whispered. "Sometimes, in dreams." Carter nodded. I have those too. Lyra looked up. You? He nodded again, his face distant. War does that. Leaves more scars inside than outside. She didn't ask more, but she didn't look away either. Later that day, she found him fixing a small machine in his workshop. It sparked a little and made strange noises. What's that? She asked, standing in the doorway. He smiled. Old robot I've been trying to fix. Useless now, but I like the challenge. She stepped inside, slowly. The walls were covered in tools, wires, and blueprints. But one small corner had something different. Pictures, photos, of people. She walked closer. There was a girl who looked like Lyra, not in shape or skin but in the eyes, tired, lost. She stood beside a young Carter, both smiling awkwardly. Your sister? Lyra asked. Yes. What happened to her? He paused. The air felt still. I lost her, he said, to people who thought slaves were property, like items. Lyra nodded slowly. Like me. No, he said firmly. Not like you. You're not an item. You're a person. That night they sat outside under the stars. Lyra held a small cup of warm broth. She didn't need to sleep on the floor anymore. She didn't check the windows every hour, but questions still lived in her mind. Why did you pay so much for me? She asked softly. Carter looked at the stars. I saw the fear in your eyes, the same fear I saw in my sister's the day she was taken. I couldn't stop it then, but I could do something now. Lyra swallowed hard. But what if I was dangerous? What if I hurt you? Carter chuckled gently. Then I'd be a fool with a kind heart. She smiled a little, just a small curl of her lips. It felt strange on her face, but good. Later, before sleep, Lyra took off her sleeves. She looked at her arms in the mirror again. The scars were still there, but now she wasn't alone with them. Someone had seen them and didn't turn away. That night, her dreams were different, still dark. But this time, when the hands came to hurt her, another hand reached out in the dream, a strong, human one, and pulled her back into the light. The visitors. The wind was gentle that morning. Lyra was planting small flowers near the front of the house. Carter had shown her how to press the soil with care. Her fingers, once used only for scrubbing floors or carrying heavy chains, now touched soft earth. She liked that feeling. Safe, simple, quiet. But peace doesn't always last. Not in a galaxy that sold lives like tools. It started with a sound, a deep hum in the sky. Lyra stood up quickly. Her heart jumped. She knew that sound. A transport ship, big and slow. Civilian ships didn't sound like that. She ran inside. Carter, she called. He was already looking out the window. A black ship was landing on the far side of the hill. 3 figures stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, uniforms too clean, too sharp. Lyra froze. Slavers, she whispered. Carter nodded. Stay here. Don't come out. But, I mean it, Lyra. Hide. She obeyed. Her feet moved on their own. She crawled into the space behind the kitchen wall, an old hiding spot Carter had never explained before. Now she understood why it was built. She held her breath, a knock on the door, then the sound of it opening. Footsteps, heavy boots on wood. Carter's calm voice. Can I help you? The leader spoke with arrogance. Heard you bought a slave girl. Paid a high price. That catches attention. Carter didn't blink. I don't own anyone. You sure? We tracked a girl. Escaped stock. Description matches. You've been misinformed. A pause. Then, mind if we look around? Lyra clutched her mouth. Carter's voice stayed steady. Yes, I mind. No warrant, no search. The slaver laughed. You protecting someone, old man? Just protecting my home. A long silence. Then, a threat sharp like ice. If we find out you're lying, you'll wish you weren't. Boots moved again, closer to Lyra's hiding place. She squeezed her eyes shut. One wrong sound, One wrong breath. But the footsteps turned back. "Keep your door locked, human," the slaver growled. "Not all of us are so polite." Then silence. Then the ship's engines again. Lyra waited. 10 minutes. 15. Then Carter opened the hiding place. "It's okay now," she burst out, tears running down her face. Not from fear, but from shock. "You lied for me." He looked at her, serious but gentle. "I told you, you're not property, you don't belong to anyone anymore." That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, knees to her chest, watching the sky. Carter came in, holding 2 cups of warm milk. He handed her one. "I was afraid they'd hurt you," she whispered. "They didn't. And they won't." She looked at him. "You could have given me up. Said I ran. Saved yourself." "I didn't save myself, Lyra," he said softly. "I saved you." The stars above them didn't feel cold anymore. They felt like hope. For the first time, Lyra believed something deep in her heart. This wasn't just shelter. This wasn't just escape. This was the start of something new. A home. The truth comes. Out Lyra had never seen snow before. It fell soft and quiet on the green hills around the safe house. She stepped outside, bare hands catching the tiny flakes. She smiled as they melted on her skin. Carter watched from the porch, arms crossed, a small grin on his face. "You're acting like a child," he teased gently. "I never got to be one," she said, her voice soft but clear. That smile faded from Carter's face, but only for a second. Then he said, "That's changing now." Later that day, while Lyra was cleaning the house, she opened the old chest in Carter's workshop. She wasn't trying to snoop. She was looking for more blankets. But what she found instead made her freeze. A dark military coat, a cracked helmet, an ID tag. Carter wasn't just a kind man. He had been a soldier, a high-ranked one. She picked up a photo buried under the uniform, a much younger Carter, standing beside a burning city. His eyes were colder in the picture. His hands held a weapon. This man had seen war, fought in it. Killed, maybe. She stepped back, heart beating faster. What if he still had that violence in him? Carter entered the room, carrying firewood. He stopped when he saw her with the photo. "You were a soldier," Lyra said quietly. "Yes," he replied. She stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I'm not proud of who I was." They sat in silence. Carter placed the wood by the fire and sat down beside her. "I followed orders," he began. "I believed in peace, but I helped make war. I watched good people die. I watched innocent ones suffer, including slaves like you." Lyra didn't speak. "I left that life when I couldn't stand it anymore," Carter said. "I bought a ship, disappeared, came here to build something better. But I never forgot what I saw or who I failed to protect." Lyra looked at the picture again. The man in the photo looked like a ghost of the one beside her now. "What made you stop?" she asked. Carter answered without thinking. "My sister." Lyra turned to him slowly. "You told me she was taken," he nodded. "But you never told me she was one of us." Carter's voice dropped. "She was. Half human, half something else. She was sold when I was away on a mission. When I came back, she was gone." Lyra's voice trembled. "Did you ever find her?" "No, I searched for years, no trail, no name, nothing." He looked at Lyra, and his eyes were different now. Not just kind, but wounded. "You remind me of her, not because of how you look, but because of how you suffer in silence." Lyra lowered her eyes. She had judged him, feared him again, but he had been fighting his own pain. "Thank you for telling me," she whispered. "You deserve to know." Then, slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched his hand. For the first time, not out of fear, but choice. That night, Lyra placed the old soldier's photo back in the chest, but she also added something else, a flower she had picked that morning. It would rest beside the photo. Not to erase Carter's past, but to remind him of what he had built since. A place where no one was owned. A place where broken things could heal. She calls him family. The snow had stopped. A quiet peace lay over the hills, and smoke rose gently from the chimney of the little house. Inside, the fire crackled, and the warmth of something deeper than heat filled the room. Lyra stood near the window watching the horizon. Her silver hair had grown fuller, cleaner. Her eyes, once hollow, now held a spark. Not brightness, but something stronger. Hope. Carter sat at the table fixing an old machine. He had grown used to the silence between them. Not cold silence, but comfortable. The kind that said, "You're not alone anymore." "Carter?" "Lyra," said softly. He looked up. "Yeah?" She turned toward him. In her hands, she held something wrapped in cloth. A gift. He raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" She walked over and placed it gently on the table. "I made it," she said. He unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a small wooden figure, a carving of two people standing together. One tall, the other small. The smaller figure held a flower. The taller one had a blanket draped over its shoulders. He smiled. "You've been busy," he said. She nodded. "I wanted to give you something because you gave me everything." There was a pause. Then she sat down across from him. "I used to think my life would end in a cage," she said. "I never thought I'd see sky again, or eat warm food, or sleep without fear." She touched the carved figure. "But you gave me those things. You didn't just free me, you showed me what it means to live." Carter didn't speak. He couldn't. Then Lyra said the words that shook him more than any battle ever had. "You're my family now." Carter looked up sharply. Her voice didn't tremble. Her eyes didn't drop. "I don't remember my real family's faces anymore, but I know what it felt like to want to belong. And now, I do." Carter leaned back in his chair, breathing slowly. "I never thought I'd be called that again," he whispered. "You earned it," she said. That night, they had a small celebration, just the two of them. Carter cooked a proper meal, vegetables, grilled meat, and Lyra even made a sweetbread from a recipe she found in one of Carter's old books. They laughed, like it was something normal, like it had always been this way. Later, as the stars lit the sky, Lyra stepped out into the cold air, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looked up and saw the stars not as faraway places of pain, but as new beginnings. Carter stood beside her. "What will you do now?" he asked gently. She thought for a moment. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe plant more flowers, learn to fix machines. Maybe teach other girls like me that they can be free too." He smiled. "I think you'd be good at that." They stood there for a long time. Two people from different worlds. One who had lost his way. One who had never had a chance. Now found in the same place. Not as master and slave. Not as rescuer and rescued. But as something else. Something simple. Family.